Why do you think that step back is going on? I mean, what happened to that momentum, if there was momentum in 2017 and arguably into 2018? What went wrong?
The world situation changed. Other things have taken precedence. The president has gone to great lengths to engage people around the world in trade agreements and things like that, and I think that may have taken precedence, so some of the push for it has evaporated. Other things have taken precedent for it. And remember, the president said that he didn't believe that stuff when he was shown the videos. Unlike Bill Clinton, who apparently believed, Jimmy Carter believed. And I had an interview with Dan Sheehan not that long ago, just a couple of weeks ago, for the book about his interaction with Jimmy Carter or their attempts to free that information up. And the question I posed to Sheehan, and he didn't have an answer, neither do I, is Carter initiated the press, the push to disclose the information about UFOs prior to being inaugurated. I mean, he was that interested in it.
Yeah.
Then something happened, and he left office without doing it. And I don't know what he would have seen or what he might have known or what caused him to kind of retreat from that point of view.
I don't want to take you too much longer over my ask of time from you, but let me just squeeze in one last question. Because I am a firm believer, I've talked about it before on this program, that U.S. presidents, despite their interest, desire, motivation, whatever it may be, that a sitting U.S. president would not be read in to secrets of this level. That I believe plausible deniability would take over, and presidents are too much in the spotlight. They can screw up. I won't name presidential names, but they could tweet about it because they love to tweet about everything else. So I think that the spotlight from an intelligence standpoint would keep them from being read in despite their interest. Do you disagree with that? Which is fine. I'm just curious. Do you think that they would know the answers?
If I'm the president and I want an answer to a question, and I say to you, and you're the man guarding the question, you have the secret clearances, you have the information, I say, John Greenewald, tell me about UFOs. And you say, I'm sorry, Mr. President, you have the need to know. Mr. Greenewald, you're fired. Bring your deputy in.
Mm-hmm.
And I would ask the question of the deputy. And if you say, well, Mr. President, you have the need to know, don't have the need to know, you're fired. Bring in the next.
Mm-hmm.
And I would go down the list till I found the person who would read me in on that stuff. I know. Jimmy Carter was told that by George Bush. George Bush being the director of Central Intelligence when Carter was elected president. Conversation took place prior to the inauguration. And Bush knew that he was not going to be held on as the director of the Central Intelligence. So he could say and get away with it, Mr. President, you're not the president yet. You don't have the need to know. I'm not going to tell you. He could get away with it. What's Carter going to do? Fire him? He's already told him he's losing his job when he's inaugurated.
Yeah.
And so once Carter becomes the president, then he can say to his man, and that was why Bush lost a job. Carter wanted to bring his man in. He says to his man, I want to know. And I think at that point the guy would have told him, or they tell him enough that they can now fall back on plausible deniability.
I would only jump in and play devil's advocate and say that's given the assumption that they would tell a sitting United States president you don't have a need to know, where rather those that, again, I'm being a little conspiratorial here, but the secret keepers, so to speak, would say lie. Just lie to the sitting president and say there's nothing there, because that secrecy is timeless, where a sitting president is 4 or 8 years. And so lie, because then they'll go out and they'll go on Jimmy Kimmel and say, yeah, I asked, they told me nothing. And then everybody gets a big laugh when Jimmy Kimmel makes a joke, and that's it. And I think that if there truly is this major cover-up and conspiracy, which I do lean towards, that would be the way to handle it, I would think.
Oh, absolutely. General Exxon, who was involved in this early on, told us, it gave us a name of a number of people who were on the oversight committee, not this MJ-12 nonsense, but an oversight committee. Gave us the names, and he said there are no elected officials on it. But he gave us the name Stuart Symington, and I only knew Stuart Symington as the senator from Missouri. But when I looked up his history in 1947, Stuart Symington was the first civilian you encountered in the Air Force hierarchy. The first civilian in the Pentagon that you'd run to once you got out of the chief of staff, he reported to the Secretary of the Air Force. George Symington at the time was Secretary of the Air Force. So he would have been in on the secret, but he didn't say anything. I think with Carter, well, they may well have lied to him, but I think that he just never brought it up again. And that I find that very puzzling. With Bill Clinton, I can see him being lied to because he was somewhat of a loose cannon. I mean, and as you mentioned, the president today is more than a loose cannon. Mm-hmm. Tweets his butt off all the time. Stop tweeting, Mr. President, please.
Yeah, if we could only get that. Love him or hate him, I think everybody's on the same page there.
Yeah. Stop tweeting. Cancel tweets, right? Cancel Twitter right now.
Yeah.
And there's something to be said, that you can lie to him, but there's other ways for the president to find out if he really wants to know. And there may be something that's there that they can say, well, Mr. President, here's something. And it's such a traumatic bit of information that at that point he says, that's enough. I don't need to know anymore.
Yeah.
Reagan was the same way, by the way. Reagan had a couple of UFO sightings, and was going to find out, and he was convinced the next war would be between us and some invading alien force.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
George H.W. Bush, I mean, he had to know.
Yeah.
He's the director of Central Intelligence. He didn't talk. Bill Clinton, he had his own problems.
Yeah.
And I think that might have inhibited him from learning that. I don't think Barack Obama cared. He had other issues to deal with. I think the same thing with President Trump. He's got a lot of other issues to deal with, and he doesn't need to worry about flying sausage, for crying out, especially since the event started 72 years ago and hasn't really affected what we do today.